fever, cough, congestion. When the symptoms keep coming, but you've got to keep going, you can rely on Mucinex Fast Max All-in-One. Just one dose of Mucinex Fast Max All-in-One relieves up to 9 cold and flu symptoms, helping you get on with your day. Need cold and flu relief? Get Mucinex Fast Max All-in-One and Done Relief. It's comeback season. Use as directed.
Welcome to the Divorce Survival Guide podcast, where we have open and honest conversations about co-parenting, separation, divorce, and the hardest question of all, should you stay or should you go? I'm Kate Anthony, your Divorce Survival Guide, and I'm here to help you navigate some of the roughest waters you've ever swum in and answer some of your toughest questions. I've been to hell and back. And now it's my mission in life to help you get to the other side of this process with your sanity and your heart intact.
Hey everyone, welcome back. So today I want to talk about letting go and the process of reclaiming your power and healing throughout this process, especially if you are recovering from abuse. The way that I want to talk about this is there's a recurring theme that always comes up with my clients. Always, always, always. And it's sort of come up a lot in the last couple of weeks. And so I wanted to really talk this through and break it down. And it's about the way in which, honestly, we've been brainwashed, and that the abuser has controlled our thoughts, feelings, and on the way that we function in the relationship and in the world out of fear, right? In order to be in the relationship, we have had to walk on eggshells, right? We are managing we're sort of mentally managing them, right? We're not saying certain things. Oh God, the children said this. Oh God, no, I have to run interference, right? We are in a constant state of trying to not piss them off. The thing that I said to a client who was really struggling with having the divorce conversation, sort of the final divorce conversation after many, many, many divorce conversations. And I said, it's as if you've spent your entire relationship walking through a minefield, and you have figured out where all the mines are, and you've spent decades now walking through the minefield, not stepping on the mines because you know where they all are, and you're very careful to not step on any of them. And now you're approaching having this conversation, you are deliberately going to be stepping on a mine after decades of avoiding all of the mines. It doesn't compute. It doesn't make sense in a brain that has been conditioned to skirt around all the mines, to hold this person to account, to have your own feelings, to have a conversation in which you express that your feelings matter in a relationship in which your feelings have never mattered, or you have had to bury them and ignore them because it would upset a very delicate balance. It doesn't make sense. The thing that I see with my clients is that we've been mentally trained, brainwashed into this set of behavior patterns, feelings, responses. And there's a very clear rewiring of the neural pathways that has to happen that is fucking terrifying. It's not just terrifying, it's completely new. It's completely new. So, these are coping mechanisms, right? So when you've been mentally managing your abuser, it is because you have learned how to cope and survive. There's nothing wrong, right? I want to really stress this. You've done nothing wrong other than try to survive. And the way that we do this, right, these coping mechanisms are to bury our own thoughts and feelings, to try to manage everything, to make sure that their feelings are okay, depending on what kind of abuse that you're suffering, right? If you're, there's the emotional vampire of a narcissist that, will suck all the air out of the room because they just, their feelings are the most important and they're so, they have so many of them and all of the things, right? Or then you have the rager, I don't need to tell you. We know the brand, right? But we have developed coping mechanisms by mentally managing them in order to protect ourselves and often our children. And we kind of build up these almost like delusions in our brains that what we're doing is protecting anybody, ourselves or our kids. In a sense, we're sort of deluding ourselves into thinking that we actually have some control over this, right? So we think that like, if I could just manage their emotions properly enough, then I'll be okay. The kids will be okay. But those are the very things that have actually kept us trapped, right? That keep us in this relationship and in the dynamic. We're essentially trained to be hypervigilant about everything about them, right? So our focus is 24/7 on this other person and how they're gonna react, and are they, do they feel okay? Are they hangry? Whatever it is, and that deliberately and by default takes all of the focus off of ourselves. It takes the focus off of our children. I have a client who said that she was so tuned into managing her ex's emotions that she didn't even notice her kids' fear. That later she realized how much of herself she and being present for herself and her children that she had sacrificed. This is sort of a deeper conversation about dropping the rope. I always talk about dropping the rope, right? They're going to keep whipping it at you. And whether you pick it up or not is your choice. The problem is that you have been so conditioned to believe that you don't have a choice, that the notion that you can set a boundary. I was talking to another client this week about boundary setting, and I was so reminded of my own experience. And in particular, I think for me, this came more to a head and was more prevalent with my mother than anybody else in my life. My mother was so controlling. Every ounce of my life was sort of managed by just trying to dodge her control, trying to fight against her control. I think I've said this before on the podcast. I remember my godfather once said to me, he said, this was when I was like 16, and he said, I feel like you haven't had the opportunity to grow in a way that you should have because you've spent all of your energy fighting off your mother. And that I was like, it was the first time I really felt seen or heard, and also had someone put words to what I felt. I felt like my entire life was organized around defending my own humanity from the one person who was supposed to, love me more than anybody else in the world, my mother, right? All of my energy was spent bobbing and weaving, dodging, fighting for any semblance of self. But I did not know. People would say, I remember my first sponsor in Al-Anon saying to me, and I've told you guys this before, but she said to me, you set a boundary and your mom sees it as a goalpost. And my response was like, yeah, that's why I can't set a boundary with her. What I learned later on is that is why my boundaries have to be that much firmer, right? I talk about boundaries in my book and in the past on the podcast as being like you're building a fence in a garden, right? And you wouldn't expect the deer and the bunnies and the bears to build the fence for you. You wouldn't expect them to intuitively know not to come into your garden where all the beautiful, wonderful things are that they want to eat, live, and are growing. You have to build that fence for them. But then if you realize that the deer are hopping your fence, your job is to build the fence higher. If you realize that the bears are coming and ripping all the fencing off and walking in, probably you're not going to go, oh, well, see, I guess I can't have a fence. You're going to build a wall that can't be taken down. And that is what I had to learn that with my mom, that boundaries were mine. I had to work so much harder than I ever anticipated or ever thought to set the boundaries. And it has changed the course of our relationship for the better on all sides, I would say. But it took me a really, really long time to realize that despite her control, despite her not wanting me to have any boundaries, I could still do it. And it took me a long time to learn how. Because when people would say, if I say this, then she's just going to say this, or she's just going to do that. And people would say to me, and then what? And I'd be like, well, you don't understand, because then she's just going to blah, 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 blah. So obviously I can't. And they're like, and so what? So what if she does? Right? Now, in cases of abuse, if the response is, but then he's going to hurt me, physically assault me, that doesn't mean that you don't set the boundary, but it certainly means that you take more precautions. You don't allow yourself to stay in the line of fire. You set a stronger boundary by taking yourself to a shelter.
Oh, it's such a clutch off-season pickup, Dave.
I was worried we'd bring back the same team.
I meant those blackout motorized shades.
Blinds.com made it crazy affordable to replace our old blinds.
Hard to install?
No, it's easy. I installed these and then got some for my mom. She talked to a design consultant for free and scheduled a professional measure and install.
Hall of Fame son.
They're the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings in the world.
Blinds.com is the GOAT.
Shop Blinds.com right now and get up to 40% off select styles. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/save. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
So I'm talking to a client yesterday, and she was talking to me about the fact that he sends 35 texts, and some of them go over the, you know how like sometimes if a text is so long, you have to actually click it and open it up so that it he'll send like 30 texts that are that long overnight because she said one thing that pissed him off or didn't do what he, required or whatever. And I said, you can put him on mute, right? You know that you don't have to receive those texts. You can block him. You can use those texts as evidence for an order of protection so that he can only contact you through a co-parenting app. And I said, you also don't have to read them. And this was like such a foreign concept to her, which I totally understand because it was the same way with my mom. What do you mean I don't have to read them? Yeah. Just because he's spewing his emotional vomit in your direction doesn't mean that you have to read it, receive it, acknowledge it, respond to it, nothing, right? So all of that emotional vomit that's coming across in text messages or emails, right? They can stay unread. And because the second you read it and you digest it and you put that inside your brain, you've picked up the rope. Because now you want to fight back. Now you want to defend yourself. Now you want to explain to him about how like he's wrong about you and the things that he's saying are just like not fair because doesn't he understand that blah, blah, blah. None of that matters to him. Because at the end of the day, the abuser's goal is very simple, and it's power and control. Everything that they're doing is about gaining power and control over you. And so if you tap dance around them, they've got their power. If you defend yourself, if you explain to them why they're wrong about you, you're hooked. That's it. You've picked up the rope and you're back in the dance. I don't care if you're negating everything that they said, right? Because negative attention is attention. All they want is your attention. The only way that they lose power over you is when you stop engaging with them. Literally don't pick up the rope. You do not need to respond in any way, shape, or form. The only thing you need to respond to is, something about the children. They could send you this like long text about, all sorts of things, whatever. And you could respond with, okay, then I'll pick the kids up at 4:00. And that's it. You don't have to respond to anything else if it doesn't have to do with the children. I will tell you that I've really been encouraging more people to use Aimee Says, the AI tool that is specifically for victims and survivors. And she has some, if you put in their texts, if you feel like you need to respond and you copy and paste their text messages into the Aimee Says website, she can read it for you. You don't even have to read it. She'll read it for you. She'll analyze it, and then she'll tell you how to respond. And that's it. You don't have to read it. So I highly recommend more people using Aimee Says, AIMEESAYS.com. It's just a web platform. There's no app, but it's brilliant. And it will just sort of suck the air out of all of this shit that they're sending you. Here's the thing is that when we are engaging with them, it's because we actually believe that we can control this situation. We believe that we can change them. We believe that there's just one thing that we'll finally figure out that we'll be able to say that will get through to them. We believe that we have some control over how they are acting, reacting, treating us. And the fact of the matter is that we are completely powerless over how other people are going to act, react, and treat us. That we're not going to find the thing, the key. By the way, if you've been trying for 30 years, right? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. The results are real clear. The results are in, and they're really clear. We actually have no power. We are powerless to change this dynamic and these behaviors. The only thing we have power over is ourselves and our own reactions and our ability to drop the rope and disengage. And we can do that, in Al-Anon, they talk a lot about detaching with love, not with an X, right? We don't need to yell and scream and vilify or anything. We can just say, okay, thanks so much. I disagree with your assessment. Let's continue to talk about the, picking up the kids at 4, whatever, exchange, whatever it is, right? You can, in all of your rage, right? Get your rage out. And then, but as soon as you rage at them, they've got you again. You're hooked. You've got the rope. So it is this detaching with love, detaching with neutrality even, right? There's no emotion in this. There is, as I like to say, we might say something like, yeah, we're not doing that. We're not having this conversation. So I'll see you at 6:00 for the exchange. Or I'm sorry you feel that way. Anyway, moving on, right? Like we just don't have to engage. You might want to come up with a list of non-engagement tactics and words, like phrases that would help in this. And I suggest you like keeping them in your phone, keeping in your notes app or something, so that you just kind of have a go-to of what to say. And then you just repeat it. Listen, when you set a boundary with someone, and that is setting a boundary, to say you actually can't talk to me like that when you're ready to have a conversation about this, let me know. That is dropping the rope and setting a boundary. And normally when we set boundaries with people, they like to push back because they don't like our boundaries. That doesn't mean, like I said before, right? Pushing back on a boundary is, the bear busting through the fence. That doesn't mean we're just like, oh, well, I guess the bears are going to eat all my food now. No, now you reinforce it. If you continue to speak to me that way, I'm going to have to block you on my phone, and we can communicate through a co-parenting app. And if they continue to abuse you on your phone, you block them and invite them to a co-parenting app. And then, talk to your attorney about it, because you don't want to be seen as an uncooperative co-parent. But if you have evidence, with all of, a bunch of harassing texts, you probably have a good leg to stand on. Anyway, my point is that you have the power. There are all of these ways in which you can stop this dynamic. I've had clients be so scared of their husband's reactions to the divorce conversation that they're mediating their divorces with someone who thinks there's a chance of reconciliation because they're too afraid to say, no, we're done with this. Now, it sounds insane because, of course, like, well, what are you mediating, right? Like, why are we mediating if they think there's a chance for reconciliation, right? The longer this goes on, the worse the reaction is going to be. The reaction's not going to be, smaller down the road.
Imagine what's possible when learning doesn't get in the way of life. At Capella University, our game-changing FlexPath learning format lets you set your own deadlines so you can learn at a time and pace that works for you. It's an education you can tailor to your schedule. That means you don't have to put your life on hold to pursue your professional goals. Instead, enjoy learning your way and earn your degree without missing a beat. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon. The holidays are here, and you know what that means. It's time to get your friends and family the gifts they deserve. Take the stress out of shopping with Amazon's great deals and low prices on a huge range of items from toys to tech and much more. Whoever you're gifting for, Amazon has great prices on everything you need this holiday season. Shop early holiday deals now.
We have setting the boundaries. And then, listen, they're going to react the way that they're going to react. And again, you're powerless over that. You let them have the tantrum. Again, if there's physical danger, you have to take different measures. But, the number of people that say like, but then he's just going to yell and scream. And then I say, okay, great. And then you pick up the kids and you leave. We don't allow horrible behavior because we are, like in our children, right? We don't say like, well, my kid's going to yell and scream, so I guess like we can never leave the pool or we can never leave the birthday party. They're going to yell and scream, and we deal with that, and maybe we put them in a timeout, right? We put them in the room. We say, you know what, you're having big feelings and I'm sorry that you're feeling like this. And, you're entitled to all of your feelings. I'm going to go in the other room. It's very similar, right? With an adult human. It sounds like you're having really big feelings about this. I really hope that you can find a good therapist to help you work through this. I am not that person. And then you, metaphorically speaking, close the door and leave. The only way for you to reclaim your mental and emotional space and balance and healing is to let go and stop engaging with their games. All of this is about power and control. You cannot manage them. You cannot fix them. It really takes a long time, right? It takes a really long time to get this. It really does. And this is your work. You are not waiting for them to stop in order for you to have peace of mind and clarity. You fucking own that shit, and you get to take it back. A lot of this is about how you're speaking to yourself, right? That you're worthy of your time. You're worthy of your energy. Your children deserve to see you happy. You deserve to be happy. None of this is linear. Healing is not linear. We will all struggle and fall down. I still, this thing has been ongoing with my mother for my entire life, and I have such better boundaries with her. But man, like this week, she drove me up an immense wall. Seriously. And, it's more complicated because she's older and I do have to take care of her in more hands-on ways than I really fucking want to. But, here we are. I always think about it. I call it like the creeping crud. It's like, you give an inch and man, they're just going to be that creeping crud and it's going to get all over you and it's going to be hard to get off. So it's okay to struggle. It's okay to fuck it up. Healing is not linear. It is so important to rewire our brains. This is about neural pathways. The power that we have given our abusers is about the neural pathways that have been developed over time for our safety. We have to start laying new tracks, right, to build a stronger pathway. I always talk about neural pathways like they're like a heavy fibered rope or a cable, right? And you're just laying one piece of fiber at a time. And the first couple of fibers are really not strong. They're not strong yet. They can break easily. But so this is why you have to keep connecting A to B, deliberately, intentionally, until that neural pathway gets stronger and stronger and that rope gets thicker and thicker, and then you're not breaking it. So you have that level of neural pathway with the abuser and responding, right? And tug of warring with that. Now you're starting fresh. This is like you're learning to walk again. You're relearning how to function in a healthy, non-codependent way. And it's hard and it's new, that will break, but it's the intentionality of, I'm not doing the thing that I've been doing for all of this time. I'm going to start doing this other thing, right? The intentionality is having pieces of information, little things to say, right? Little things to say. And, I'm going to actually create a list of things to say to drop the rope that I will attach in the show notes to this episode. So keep this list handy so that you can just like repeat, I call the time, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat is about not engaging. Rinse and repeat is about, I said what I said, right? It's asked and answered. I said what I said. I will say it again. I'm not going to now dive into whatever narrative you want to, right? I control this narrative. And I said what I said, and I'm not engaging. So I will put that in the show notes. I'll just give you a little help for, what to say. I do this all the time in my programs, guys. This is like I think, I've said it before. Susan Guthrie calls me the queen of communication. This is my jam. My jam is helping you come up with responses and what to say in difficult situations. I do it for my clients in Phoenix Rising. If you're going through a divorce and you need support and an incredible community, Phoenix Rising is an amazing place for that. And I do it with my one-on-one clients. And as you know, I now have my focus strategy sessions that are available, 3 sessions to help you get through this. And I will come up with all of the scripts and all of the words for you for your specific situation. If you're like, I don't know what to say, this sounds great, but I can't figure out like the thing to say in this situation, I got you. This is my jam. So your real power is in realizing that the way that you have been brainwashed, the neural pathways that have been connected for survival do not have to define you. They are not you. They were implanted by somebody else. And you can let go of them. But it's going to take some work. It's going to take some hard work. And it's going to take you shifting the way that you are in the relationship. Up until now, you've been trying to convince them to change who they are in this relationship, and it hasn't worked. And so now it's time to shift who you are, because that you have the power to do. You have the power over shifting how you show up in this relationship and who you become throughout this process. So remember that you deserve to be happy, and you can do this. You can. I promise you. I have done it. I have done it. It's some of the hardest work I've ever done, but I have done it, and I know you can too. And if you need help with that, I got you. All of my programs and everything, as you know, are on my website. If you want some focused strategy sessions, it's kateanthony.com/apply. Phoenix Rising, kateanthony.com/decided. And if programs aren't for you and this, you can still do this work. You can still do it. Download the, drop the rope. I don't know what I'm going to call them. I just came up with it on this as I was talking to you. So I don't know what I'm going to call it, but it's like drop phrases for dropping the rope or something like that. Well, you know me and naming things. So good at it. Anyway, that's all for today. I love and adore you, and I will see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Divorce Survival Guide podcast. If you like what you hear, head on over to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen in and leave me a review. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram at the Divorce Survival Guide. I'll see you next time, and until then, remember, you, my love, deserve to be happy.
Hi there, I'm Andrea Owen, self-help author with 19 translations of my books, global keynote speaker, and life coach. My podcast, Make Some Noise, has been serving up self-help in a simple to digest way for the last decade. The topics brought in each episode are practical and easy to implement around topics such as working through fears that keep you stuck, different modalities of therapy, managing your negative self-talk, and more. We bring you guest experts, solo episodes, and I even coach listeners on the air around relatable struggles. I also do my best to weave my sense of humor into some heavy topics because, let's face it, life can be pretty hard, and it's so much better when we can have some fun while walking through our challenges. Whether you're seasoned in personal development or just starting out, Make Some Noise podcast will help you become the best version of yourself, the person you're proud of when you look in the mirror and show up in your life. Simply search Make Some Noise with Andrea Owen wherever you listen to your podcasts.